The exit interview lasted exactly 7 minutes. Derek Hastings didn't bother to even appear uneasy as he slid the severance agreement across his glass desk. "You're too ambitious, Natasha," he said, like he was diagnosing a terminal illness. "You're making the other directors anxious. You're generating tension in the executive team. This company requires team players, not competitors." I remember how he spat out that last word. Competitors. He made ambition sound venomous. He made wanting more feel shameful. I signed, grabbed my box, and left VentureSync's HQ. Atlanta waited below, hot and hungry for ambition like mine. What Derek didn't realize, what he couldn't have realized, was that while he doubted me, I'd been siphoning confidential files for 3 months. Client lists, pricing strategies, product roadmaps. His entire playbook was copied and encrypted on a drive in my purse. This isn't a confession. It's a case study in what happens when you mistake someone's patience for weakness. Let me pause and introduce myself, since you'll need context for what comes next. My name is Natasha Drummond. I'm 32. For 4 years, I worked as Director of Business Development at VentureSync Solutions, a mid-sized Atlanta software company. Derek built it on the backs of people like me. We did the work. He took the accolades. What you're about to hear is how I transformed from being labeled too ambitious and dismissed as a threat to becoming the CEO of Derek's biggest competitor. I didn't just beat his company. I took his clients, his reputation, and his investors' confidence. This is where my real ambition reshaped both our destinies. Some of you will think I'm ruthless. Others will take notes. Either way, you'll keep listening. Because deep down, you want to know, if your boss humiliated you like that, would you have the stomach to do what I did? Before we go into this story, let me know in the comments. Have you ever been told you were too ambitious? What happened? And if this resonates with you, if you've ever felt underestimated or overlooked, hit that subscribe button. Because this channel is dedicated to the stories they don't want you to hear. The ones about people who refuse to stay in their place. Now, with all that said, let's get into it, because this is where everything really began. You need to know who Derek Hastings was. For a decade, he repackaged others' breakthroughs and claimed them as his strategy. The company he claimed to have built from the ground up was assembled by co-founders forced out. By 2020, VentureSync was his kingdom. He ruled like a medieval lord, convinced of CEO's divine right. But my story with Derek really began in a cramped College Park studio in 2008. I was 16, and my mother explained for the 4th night in a row why we were eating ramen. "Mr. Pembroke laid off half the department today," she said, her voice hollow as she stirred the cheap noodles. "I survived this round, but next quarter..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. My mother worked at Pembroke and Associates for 12 years, creating a cost-saving system. Her reward, a certificate and a $500 bonus. When the recession hit, they kept the CEO's nephew, who spent half his day on fantasy football. They let my mother go. She spent the next year working any job she found: retail, data entry, contract work with no benefits. She never complained. She just worked. After our shifts, hers at Target, mine at Chick-fil-A, my mother said, "People at the top make the rules. People like us follow them and hope we don't get stepped on." I asked why we couldn't be the people at the top. She looked tired. "People like us don't get opportunities. No connections. No money to fail. One mistake and we're done." "That's not fair," I said. "No, baby. It's not. But fairness is a fairy tale we tell children so they don't burn the world down." I believed working hard, being smart, and playing by the rules earned you a place at the table. The American dream, right? Looking back, my hope was heartbreakingly naive. My mother died when I was 25 from lung cancer. We caught it too late. She couldn't afford a doctor, still working hourly contracts, still following the rules. At her funeral, her last boss, a temp agency manager, shook my hand. He called her reliable. 27 years, and that was it. I wanted to throw him out of the church. Instead, I thanked him. That's what powerless people do. I earned my MBA at Georgia State, top of my class, on scholarships and loans. My first business dev job came from sheer grit and a thrifted suit. I trusted meritocracy. I believed in fairness. Fairness is a lie we tell ourselves to justify our own powerlessness. In August 2020, I joined VentureSync as a senior business development manager. The company, founded by Derek in the early 2010s, specialized in enterprise software for supply chain optimization. When I arrived, we were closing 7-figure deals with Fortune 500 companies. Derek was 48 when I arrived. MBA from Emory. Son of a wealthy real estate developer who bankrolled his first 3 failures before VentureSync finally succeeded. He had a habit of interrupting people mid-sentence. Not out of rudeness, but because he genuinely thought his ideas outweighed yours. And here's the sick part, I admired him. I looked at Derek Hastings and saw someone who'd achieved what I wanted to achieve. Power. Respect. The ability to walk into a room in Buckhead or Midtown and have everyone shut up and listen. I didn't want to be like him. I wanted to be him. That was my first mistake. I excelled. My first year, 3 major new clients, $8.2 million revenue. I shortened our sales cycle from 6 months to 8 weeks. I fixed Derek's errors. He took the credit. And I told myself it was fine. I told myself I was paying my dues. Playing the long game. Building my reputation. God, I was so painfully stupid. By January 2022, I was Director of Business Development, a promotion, a raise, a corner office, but still no real power. Everything went through Derek. But I told myself it would change. If I just worked harder, proved myself more completely, eventually Derek would trust me with real power. You know what they call people who keep believing promises that never come true? Victims. So here's my first question for you. How long would you have stayed? 1 year of being overlooked? 2. 4. At what point does patience become complicity in your own oppression? Drop a comment. I want to know your breaking point. April 2023. We were competing for a massive contract with Delta Airlines. Supply chain software for their entire ground operations network. 18-month implementation. $14 million total contract value. It was the kind of deal that could define a company's year. I spent 4 months on the Delta proposal, long days, weekends, building relationships. Their VP requested me by name. I prepared for weeks for the final Delta presentation, knew every slide, every objection. The morning of the presentation, Derek called me into his office. "I'm taking the Delta meeting," he said, not looking up from his phone. I stared at him. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me. This is too important. I need to be the face of this deal. You'll attend as support, but I'm leading." "Derek, I built this proposal. I've been managing the Delta relationship for 4 months. Their VP specifically asked to work with me." He finally looked up. His expression was patient, condescending, the look you'd give a child who wants to drive the car. "Natasha, you're a talented BD director. But you're not a closer. This is a $14 million deal. It needs executive presence. It needs someone with a strategic vision." "I understand the strategic vision. I created the strategic vision." "No," Derek said, his voice cold. "You created a sales proposal. I create a strategy. There's a difference. And frankly, Natasha, you're making this weird. This is a team win. Why so territorial?" There it was. For months of work were dismissed as me being territorial. Wanting credit was now called unprofessional. I watched Derek present my slides. He botched technical points. He promised impossible timelines. He mentioned his father's real estate connections, irrelevant to supply chain software. But he was charming. He was confident. He had that easy, practiced charisma of someone who'd never had to fight for anything. Delta's team seemed impressed. They asked questions. Derek answered about half of them correctly, deflecting the rest to me with casual gestures. "Natasha can walk you through the technical specifications," he'd say, as if I were his assistant rather than the architect of the entire proposal. We won the contract. Derek announced it the next day in an all-hands meeting. 218 people crammed into our main conference room. He stood at the front, PowerPoint behind him, talking about our vision, our strategy, and our win. "This is what happens when we operate as a unified team," Derek said, his voice booming with practiced sincerity. "When we put aside individual egos and focus on what matters, delivering value to our clients." He clicked to the next slide. It was a photo of him shaking hands with Delta's CEO. Just him. No one else. I sat in the back of that room, outwardly smiling and taking notes. But in that moment, I decided I would never let myself be powerless again. That was the start of everything that followed. But something had shifted. Some small part of me that still believed in fairness, that still thought hard work would be rewarded, had finally died. In its place was something colder. Something that I understood what my mother had tried to teach me 17 years earlier in that cramped apartment in College Park. The world doesn't reward hard work. It rewards power. And if you want power, you have to take it. That night, I started planning my exit. I didn't quit immediately. That would have been emotional, reactive, and stupid. Real revenge is cold, calculated, patient. Real revenge requires preparation. I spent the next 6 months becoming the perfect employee. I stopped pushing back on Derek's bad decisions. Stopped flagging problems. When he overruled my recommendations, I smiled and implemented his instructions exactly as he gave them. Derek thought he'd finally broken me. I could see it in how he treated me. That subtle shift from hostility to approval. He'd put me in my place, and now I was being a good little soldier. The fool actually thought he'd won. What he didn't know, every bad decision I implemented, I documented meticulously. Every client meeting where Derek overpromised, I kept detailed notes. Every technical specification he misrepresented, I recorded. I was building a case file on his incompetence so thorough that when the time came, he wouldn't have a single defense. But documentation wasn't enough. I needed 3 things to truly win. First, I needed capital. You can't start a competing company with dreams and resentment. You need money. Second, I needed clients. Specifically, I needed VentureSync's clients to be willing to leave with me. Third, I needed his technical team. The developers and engineers who actually built the software Derek sold. I started with capital. I'd been living modestly since my promotion, banking most of my salary. I had $127,000 in savings. Not nearly enough to launch a software company, but enough to make me look serious to investors. I spent evenings at tech networking events in Atlanta Tech Village and Ponce City Market. I cultivated relationships with angel investors and small VC firms. I never mentioned VentureSync directly. I just talked about the inefficiencies in the current market and opportunities for disruption. By October 2023, I had soft commitments for $2.3 million in seed funding. Contingent, of course, on my actually launching the company. Next, the clients. This is where I crossed a line I can't uncross. For 4 years, I'd been the primary relationship manager for VentureSync's biggest clients. I had their cell phone numbers. I knew their pain points. I knew where Derek's solutions were failing them. More importantly, I knew they trusted me more than they trusted Derek. I started having casual coffee meetings with my top 5 clients. These were people I'd worked with for years. People who called me directly when they had problems bypassed Derek entirely. I'm thinking about making a change, I'd say carefully. Starting my own firm. Something more specialized, more responsive. I wanted to get your thoughts. What would you actually want from a supply chain partner? They talked. Boy, did they talk. They told me everything that frustrated them about VentureSync. The slow response times. The buggy updates. Derek's habit of disappearing for weeks and then showing up with grand strategic pronouncements that had nothing to do with their actual needs. If you started your own company, one VP told me over drinks at St. Regis, we'd seriously consider switching. You're the only reason we've stayed with VentureSync this long. I documented all of these conversations. Not as evidence, I was too careful for that, but as confirmation. When I launched, I'd have at least 3 major clients ready to jump ship immediately. Finally, the technical team. Derek was a terrible technical manager. He treated developers like interchangeable parts. He'd demand impossible deadlines, ignore their architectural recommendations, and then blame them when his half-baked ideas failed in production. His lead architect was a brilliant woman named Fiona Burgess. She'd been with VentureSync for 6 years. She was the person who actually built everything Derek took credit for. And she was exhausted. I took Fiona to lunch in November. Not at our usual spot near the office, but at a quiet restaurant in Virginia Highland. I'm leaving VentureSync, I told her. I'm starting my own company. Same space, better approach. I need a technical co-founder. Someone who can build enterprise software without a CEO micromanaging every decision. Fiona stared at me. Are you serious? Completely. You'd have equity. Real equity. 20% of the company. Full technical autonomy. And you'd get to build something properly for once, without Derek changing requirements every 3 days. That's a massive risk, Fiona said. So is staying at VentureSync. Derek just lost the Morrison account because he insisted on using an outdated framework you told him wouldn't scale. How many more times are you going to let your work fail because he won't listen? I watched her process this. Watched the exhaustion and frustration and barely suppressed rage play across her face. I'm in, she said. But I need to bring 2 of my team. Liam and Tobias. They're the only other people at VentureSync who know what they're doing. Done. Just like that, I'd recruited the technical core of my new company. The people who knew all of VentureSync's code, all of its systems, all of its weaknesses. By December 2023, I had everything I needed. Funding commitments, client interest, a technical team. All the pieces were in place. I just needed the right moment to light the fuse. Derek gave it to me on January 4th, 2024. So here's my question for you. At what point did I become the villain? When I started documenting Derek's failures? When I recruited his clients? When I poached his technical team? Or was I justified because he'd stolen my work first? Drop a comment and let me know where you think I crossed the line. Because I'm just getting started. The quarterly leadership meeting started at 9 a.m. All 7 directors crammed into Derek's corner office with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Buckhead. Atlanta's skyline glittered in the winter sun. Inside, the temperature was glacial. Derek had been in a foul mood for weeks. We'd lost 2 major clients in December, clients I'd deliberately neglected during my exit planning. Our Q4 numbers were down 18%. The board was asking uncomfortable questions. Derek needed a scapegoat. Let's talk about BD performance, Derek said, his eyes landing on me. Natasha, your team closed the Delta deal in May, but since then, we've seen a significant decline in new business. What's going on? I had prepared for this moment, had rehearsed it a dozen times. The Delta implementation has required significant client support, I said calmly. We're allocating resources to ensure their success, which has temporarily slowed new business development. Temporarily? Derek's voice had that dangerous edge. It's been 8 months. At some point, temporary becomes chronic underperformance. I watched him set the trap. Watched him position himself to blame me for problems he'd created. The real issue, Derek continued, is that you've become too focused on your existing relationships. You're not hunting new business. You're too comfortable. Too territorial. There was that word again. Territorial. Code for ambitious. Code for threatening. You're coasting on the Delta win, Derek said. And frankly, Natasha, you're making the other directors nervous. You're creating tension in the executive team. This company needs team players, not people trying to build their own empires. The room was silent. 6 other directors stared at their laptops, at the conference table, at anything but me. I see, I said quietly. I don't think you do, Derek said. I think you've let that one big win go to your head. I think you've forgotten that we succeed as a team. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take the next quarter to refocus. You're going to work on being more collaborative, more humble. And if I don't see improvement by April, we're going to need to have a different conversation. He just put me on a performance improvement plan in front of the entire leadership team. Public humiliation disguised as feedback. I could have fought back. Could have pointed out that the business decline was due to his poor technical decisions, his inability to manage client expectations, and his habit of overpromising and underdelivering. Instead, I smiled. I understand. Thank you for the feedback. Derek looked satisfied. He'd put the uppity director in her place. He had no idea what he'd just done. I walked back to my office, closed the door, sat down at my desk, and I felt something I'd never felt before. Not anger, not fear. Something purer, colder, certainty. I drafted my resignation letter right there. 2 weeks' notice, professional language, polite lies about pursuing other opportunities. I brought it to Derek's office at 2:30 p.m. He glanced at the first line and laughed. Actually laughed. You're quitting because I gave you constructive feedback? Natasha, come on. Don't be childish. This isn't about feedback, I said. I'm resigning because I've accepted another opportunity. What opportunity? I'm starting my own company. The smile vanished from Derek's face. Excuse me? A supply chain software firm. Same market, different approach. Derek's face went through a fascinating series of expressions. Confusion. Disbelief. Recognition. Rage. You can't do that. You're under a non-compete. I read my employment contract very carefully. The non-compete only applies if I'm terminated. It doesn't apply if I resign. I watched him process this. Watched him realize that his own legal team had left a loophole, and I'd found it. You won't last 6 months, Derek said, his voice tight. You think you can compete with me? I built this company from nothing. I have the relationships. I have the resources. You're just what? I interrupted. Too ambitious? Derek stood up. Get out of my office. I'll finish my 2 weeks. No. You're done. Today. Security will escort you out. And Natasha. His voice was cold now. Pure venom. I'm going to make sure every client, every investor, every potential partner in Atlanta knows that you're a traitor. You'll never work in this industry again. I smiled. We'll see. Security escorted me out. Box of desk items. The whole humiliating ritual. But as I walked out of VentureSync's Buckhead Tower for the last time, I felt lighter than I had in months. Because Derek had just made his fatal mistake. He'd threatened me publicly. He'd told me I'd never work in the industry again. He'd declared war in front of witnesses. Now I had permission to fight back without mercy. I incorporated Catalyst Solutions, LLC the next day. Fiona Burgess resigned from VentureSync on January 10th, taking Liam and Tobias with her. Derek tried to enforce their non-competes, but Georgia law is notoriously employer-unfriendly. His threats went nowhere. We launched on February 1st, 2024. Our first office was a co-working space in Atlanta Tech Village. For people total. Fiona, Liam, Tobias, and I. No fancy headquarters. No corporate perks. Just a mission. Build better software than VentureSync, faster and cheaper. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 client meetings scheduled. The same VPs I'd been cultivating for months. I didn't technically steal these clients. I simply told them I was available, and they chose to work with me instead of Derek. Our first signed contract was with Morrison Logistics, the same company that had left VentureSync in December because of Derek's technical failures. Contract value, $1.8 million. Our second was with a mid-sized retailer called Pearson Supply Company. They'd been a VentureSync prospect for a year, but Derek kept lowballing them because he didn't think they were strategic enough. I gave them the same solution for 30% less. Contract value, $900,000. By April, Catalyst Solutions had $4.2 million in signed contracts and 8 employees. Derek was hemorrhaging clients, and he knew exactly who was responsible. His first move was predictable. He sent me a cease and desist letter claiming I'd violated my employment agreement by poaching clients. My lawyer, a brilliant woman named Bryn Templeton who specialized in tech employment disputes, laughed when she read it. "This is weak," Bryn said. "He's claiming you used confidential information, but he can't prove it. He's claiming you poached clients, but clients can choose who they work with. He's mad that he's losing, but being mad isn't illegal." We sent a response that was basically a polite version of "go fuck yourself." Derek's second move was more creative. He called my investors. I found out because one of my angel investors, a guy named Quincy Maddox who'd made his money in Atlanta's fintech scene, called me directly. "Hey Natasha, I got a weird call today from Derek Hastings at VentureSync. He said you stole proprietary information when you left. Said you're not trustworthy. Wanted to warn me before I made a mistake by funding you." My blood went cold. "What did you tell him?" I told him I'd done my own due diligence, and I'm confident in my investment. But heads up, he's definitely making calls. This guy really doesn't like you. Derek wasn't just fighting me legally. He was trying to poison my reputation across Atlanta's entire tech ecosystem. That's when I realized playing defense wasn't going to work. Derek was too well connected, too established. He could make calls. He could spread rumors. He could use his reputation to undermine mine. I needed to go on offense. I needed to destroy his credibility before he could destroy mine. I needed to show the world who Derek Hastings really was. So tell me, was Derek justified in trying to stop me? After all, I did use relationships I'd built at his company to launch my own. I did recruit his technical team. I did compete directly with him. Or was this just business? Drop your thoughts below. And if you're invested in this story, hit that like button, because the real war is just beginning. Fiona Burgess walked into my office at Tech Village in late April with an expression I'd never seen before. She looked terrified and exhilarated at the same time. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. "In private." "What's wrong?" Fiona pulled out her laptop and opened a folder. Inside were dozens of files, code repositories, internal emails, technical architecture documents. "Before I left VentureSync, I made copies of everything I'd built," Fiona said. "The entire codebase for their supply chain platform. Every module, every API, every database schema." My stomach dropped. "Fiona, that's corporate espionage? Theft of trade secrets?" "Yeah, I know." Fiona's hands were shaking slightly. "I didn't plan to use it. I built that system. 8 years of my life. I couldn't stand the idea of Derek claiming he owned my work. So I took copies. And you're telling me this now because? Because Derek's threatening to sue us for stealing his IP. I got a letter yesterday claiming that Catalyst's platform is substantially similar to VentureSync's proprietary code. He's going to claim we literally copied his software. Did we? No. I rewrote everything from scratch. But Natasha, here's the thing. Fiona leaned forward. VentureSync's codebase is a disaster. It's riddled with security vulnerabilities. Some of them are critical. I'm talking about bugs that could expose client data, SQL injection vulnerabilities, hard-coded passwords, the kind of stuff that could get them hit with massive compliance fines if anyone found out. I stared at her. You're saying Derek's software is fundamentally insecure? I'm saying it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I flagged these issues for 2 years. Derek ignored every single report because fixing them would require a complete rewrite, and that would be expensive. So he just swept it under the rug and hoped nothing would happen. A plan began to form in my mind. Dangerous. Unethical. Possibly illegal. Perfect. How would someone find out about these vulnerabilities? I asked carefully. Fiona understood immediately. If someone did a security audit, or if someone who knew the codebase pointed them out to the right people. What kind of right people? Regulators, compliance officers, or the press. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us understanding what we were discussing. This wasn't just competitive intelligence. This was exposing Derek's negligence in a way that could destroy his company. If we do this, I said slowly, there's no going back. Derek will know it came from us. He'll sue us into oblivion. He's already trying to do that, Fiona said. At least this way we fight back. I thought about my mother, about Derek's smug face during that leadership meeting, about every person who'd ever told me I was too ambitious, because I refused to settle for being stepped on. Do it, I said. Fiona spent the next week preparing a comprehensive security report. It wasn't just a list of bugs, it was a damning indictment of VentureSync's development practices. She documented every vulnerability, every ignored warning, every corner Derek had cut to save money or meet unrealistic deadlines. Then came the question of distribution. We couldn't just send it to the press, that would be too obvious. We needed someone with credibility to discover this independently. That's when I remembered something. One of our new clients, Morrison Logistics, was preparing for a SOC 2 audit. They'd asked me if Catalyst's platform was secure enough to meet compliance requirements. During that conversation, their CTO had mentioned that they'd tried to get the same information from VentureSync when they were a client, but Derek had been evasive. I had an idea. I sent an anonymous email to Morrison's CTO from a burner account. The subject line was simple: security concerns regarding your former vendor. The email contained a link to a file-sharing service where Fiona had uploaded her security report, with all references to herself removed, making it appear to come from a concerned VentureSync employee. The email read, I'm a developer who recently left VentureSync. I'm reaching out because I know your company was a former client, and I'm concerned about the security of the data you may have shared with them. The attached report documents serious vulnerabilities in their platform. You should conduct an independent audit immediately. Morrison's CTO did exactly what I hoped. He hired a third-party security firm to investigate. The audit took 2 weeks. The findings were devastating. VentureSync's platform had 17 critical vulnerabilities and 32 high-severity bugs. Some had existed for over 3 years. Customer data from 6 major clients, including Morrison, had been stored in unsecured databases with hard-coded admin credentials that anyone with access could exploit. Morrison's CTO went ballistic. He immediately contacted every other VentureSync client he knew to warn them. Within days, for major clients demanded emergency security audits of their own data. The story broke in the Atlanta Business Chronicle on May 15, 2024. The headline was brutal. Atlanta software firm VentureSync faces major security crisis as clients flee. The article quoted Morrison's CTO extensively. We trusted VentureSync with sensitive supply chain data for 3 years. To discover that our information was essentially sitting in an unlocked filing cabinet is inexcusable. This is not a small oversight. This is systemic negligence. Derek tried damage control. He issued a statement claiming the vulnerabilities were minor and already being addressed. He hired an expensive PR firm to manage the crisis. But it was too late. The narrative was out there. VentureSync was insecure. Derek was negligent. Clients started terminating contracts. By June, VentureSync had lost 9 major clients. Their revenue dropped 43%. Their board called an emergency meeting to discuss Derek's future. And through it all, I watched from across town in my Tech Village office, building my own company on the ruins of his. Was I responsible for the leak? Technically, no. Fiona had sent the information anonymously. I had simply pointed it in the right direction. But morally? Ethically? I had deliberately destroyed Derek's company by exposing secrets I should never have had access to in the first place. And I didn't feel even a tiny bit of guilt. Here's where I need your honest opinion. Did I go too far? Derek was negligent. That part is true. His software really was insecure. But I exposed it to destroy him, not to protect consumers. Does the fact that I was telling the truth make the method acceptable? Or am I exactly as ruthless as Derek always said I was? Comment below. July 2024. Catalyst Solutions had 16 employees, $8.3 million in signed contracts, and offices in both Atlanta Tech Village and a small satellite space in Alpharetta. We'd become the fastest-growing supply chain software company in the Southeast. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I was sitting across from my lawyer, Bryn Templeton, listening to her explain why I was about to be sued into bankruptcy. Derek's going nuclear, Bryn said, sliding a thick legal document across her desk. He's filing a lawsuit claiming you orchestrated the security leak that destroyed his reputation. And Natasha, he has evidence. My blood went cold. What kind of evidence? Digital forensics. VentureSync hired a cybersecurity firm to trace the source of the anonymous email that went to Morrison's CTO. They tracked it to a VPN service. They subpoenaed the VPN provider. And they found evidence that the account was created using a payment method linked to Fiona Burgess. I felt the floor drop out from under me. That's impossible. Fiona used a burner email and cryptocurrency. She tried to, Bryn interrupted. But she made a mistake. She used a VPN provider that accepts credit cards. And the card she used to set up her anonymous account? It was linked to her real identity. VentureSync's lawyers have bank records showing the transaction. This couldn't be happening. We'd been so careful. There's more, Bryn continued. Derek's claiming that the security vulnerabilities were real, but exaggerated in the report Fiona created. He's arguing that any competent software has some bugs, and you deliberately amplified them to create a crisis. He's also claiming you violated trade secret law by using Fiona's internal knowledge of VentureSync's systems. Can he prove that? He doesn't have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. This is a civil court. He just needs to show it's more likely than not that you orchestrated the leak. And right now, he has a pretty compelling case. I stared at the legal document. Derek Hastings versus Natasha Drummond and Catalyst Solutions, LLC. Damages sought, $25 million. $25 million I didn't have. What do we do? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. We have 2 options, Bryn said. 1, we fight. It'll cost you at least $500,000 in legal fees with no guarantee of winning. Or 2, you settle. Derek's offered to drop the lawsuit if you agree to dissolve Catalyst Solutions, sign a 5-year non-compete, and pay him $2 million. $2 million to give up everything I built? Or $25 million if you lose the case? Your choice. I left Bryn's office and drove aimlessly through Atlanta. Past the Buckhead Tower, where VentureSync still had its headquarters. Past Tech Village, where my team was probably working late, completely unaware that their CEO was about to lose everything. I thought about my mother, about the speech she'd given me 17 years ago about power and rules and keeping your head down. I'd broken every rule. I'd taken power instead of asking for permission. I'd destroyed a man who'd humiliated me. And now I was about to pay for it. I called Fiona that night, told her about the lawsuit, about the evidence, about the settlement offer. This is my fault, Fiona said, her voice thick with guilt. I fucked up the VPN. I should have been more careful. Natasha, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. I asked you to do this. I'm the one who... No, Fiona interrupted. You need to listen to me. There's something you don't know. My stomach clenched. What? Remember how Derek found out about the VPN? How did his cybersecurity firm trace it back to my credit card? Yes. That shouldn't have been possible. The VPN provider I used has a strict no-logs policy. They don't keep records of payment methods or user identities. It's literally the whole point of the service. So how did Derek's lawyers get the information? Fiona was quiet for a long moment. I've been thinking about that. And there's only one explanation. Someone gave it to them. Someone who had access to my financial records. Who would have that kind of access? There are only 3 people with admin access to Catalyst's financial systems. You, me, and Liam. I finished, my mind racing. Liam Kellner. One of the developers, Fiona, had brought with her from VentureSync. Brilliant engineer. Quiet guy. Always reliable. Always too quiet? I did some digging, Fiona said. Liam's brother-in-law works in VentureSync's legal department. I didn't think anything of it before, but Natasha, what if Liam never left Derek's side? What if he's been feeding information back this whole time? I felt sick. Why would he do that? Money. Loyalty. A promise of a better position when this is all over. Who knows? But think about it. Liam has been here since day one. He's seen every client meeting, every contract, every strategic decision. If he's reporting back to Derek, then Derek knows everything about our company, our financials, our client relationships, our vulnerabilities. Which means this lawsuit isn't just about the security leak, Fiona said. It's a calculated attack. Derek knows exactly where to hit us because Liam's been giving him the blueprints. I should have been terrified. I should have been devastated. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, clarity. Because if Liam was feeding information to Derek, that meant I could feed information back. I could control what Derek thought he knew. Fiona, I said slowly, don't tell anyone about this conversation. Not Tobias, not the rest of the team, and especially not Liam. What are you going to do? I thought about my mother in her purple cleaning uniform. About Derek's smug face when he told me I was too ambitious. About every person who'd ever underestimated me. I'm going to give Derek exactly what he wants, I said. And it's going to destroy him. Here's the question. If someone you trusted was betraying you, feeding your secrets to your enemy, would you cut them out immediately? Or would you use them as a weapon? Think about it. Because what I'm about to do next will either make me a genius or completely destroy me. The plan was simple, elegant, and absolutely vicious. Over the next 2 weeks, I started having confidential conversations in the office. Conversations I made sure Liam could overhear. Bryn thinks we should settle, I told Fiona in the break room, my voice deliberately loud enough to carry. She says we don't have the capital to fight a prolonged legal battle. I'm thinking of accepting Derek's terms. Dissolving Catalyst, paying the $2 million. Liam was at his desk 15 feet away, headphones on, but I saw the subtle way his typing slowed down. He was listening. I had more private phone calls with my investors, during which I expressed doubts about our ability to survive the lawsuit. I left documents on my desk about our dwindling cash reserves. I emailed Fiona about preparing for the worst-case scenario. Every piece of information was carefully crafted. Every conversation was designed to make Derek think he'd already won. And sure enough, within days, Derek's behavior changed. His lawyers, who'd been aggressively pursuing discovery and depositions, suddenly slowed down. Derek started making public statements about looking forward to a resolution. He even gave an interview to the Atlanta Business Chronicle, discussing the importance of protecting intellectual property and his confidence that justice would prevail. He thought I was about to surrender. He was already planning his victory lap. What Derek didn't know, I'd been having very different conversations with my actual allies. I met with Bryn Templeton at a coffee shop in Virginia Highland, far from any Tech Village cameras or curious ears. I need you to do something that's going to sound insane, I told her. I need you to file for an emergency discovery motion. We're going after VentureSync's internal communications. Specifically, any emails or messages between Derek Hastings and Liam Kellner from Catalyst Solutions. Bryn raised an eyebrow. You think you can prove Liam's been feeding him information? I know he has. And if we can prove Derek's been using a corporate spy to gather information about Catalyst, his entire lawsuit collapses. He can't claim we stole trade secrets when he's been literally stealing ours. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? I pulled out my laptop and showed her what Fiona had found. Irregularities in Liam's activity logs. Encrypted emails sent from his work computer to addresses we couldn't trace. Timestamps that matched perfectly with Derek's legal filings and strategic decisions. This isn't enough for a criminal case, Bryn said. But it might be enough for discovery. If we can force Derek to turn over his communications with Liam, we might find the smoking gun. We filed the motion on July 28th. Derek's lawyers fought it viciously, which told me everything I needed to know. If there was nothing to hide, they would have just turned over the documents. But the judge was intrigued. She ordered a preliminary review of Derek's email server, specifically any communications with current or former employees of Catalyst Solutions. The discovery process took 3 weeks. 3 agonizing weeks where I had to keep pretending I was about to surrender while actually preparing for war. On August 19th, Bryn called me at 11 p.m. "We got him," she said, her voice vibrating with excitement. "Natasha, we fucking got him." The emails were damning. Dozens of messages between Derek and Liam, dating back to February, the same month Catalyst launched. Liam had been reporting on our client meetings, our pricing strategies, our technical roadmap, everything. He'd even forwarded internal financial documents showing our cash position. But the most devastating email was from July 10th, sent just 2 days after Derek filed his lawsuit. "Liam, appreciate the intel on Drummond's cash situation. If she's down to $340,000 in reserves, she can't afford to fight this. Push the settlement narrative. Make her think folding is her only option. Once she dissolves Catalyst, we'll bring you back on at the VP level as we discussed. You've earned it." DH. Derek hadn't just been receiving stolen information. He'd been actively directing corporate espionage. He'd been using Liam as a weapon to destroy my company from the inside. And he'd been stupid enough to put it all in writing. Bryn filed an amended response to Derek's lawsuit on August 22nd. We didn't just defend against his claims. We countersued for corporate espionage, fraud, and tortious interference. And then we leaked the emails. Not to the press directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead, we sent them to the same legal tech blog that had covered Derek's original lawsuit against me. We sent them anonymously, from an account that couldn't be traced back to us. The blog published the story on August 24th. The headline was beautiful. VentureSync CEO accused of planting corporate spy in competitor's startup. The story went viral. Not just in Atlanta's tech scene, but nationally. TechCrunch picked it up. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature. Suddenly, Derek Hastings wasn't the victim of corporate espionage. He was the perpetrator. His board called an emergency meeting on August 27th. I know because one of the board members, a woman named Margot Sinclair, who'd always been skeptical of Derek, called me directly. "Is this real?" Margot asked. "Did Derek really plant someone in your company?" "Yes. And I have the emails to prove it." Jesus Christ. Margot sounded exhausted. "Natasha, off the record. The board's been concerned about Derek's judgment for a while now. The security crisis. The client loses. And now this. We're discussing removing him as CEO. What does that mean for the lawsuit? If Derek's no longer CEO, the board will likely drop it. We have no interest in destroying Catalyst. We're just trying to save what's left of VentureSync." 3 days later, Derek Hastings was removed as CEO of VentureSync. The board announced it in a terse press release citing strategic differences and a need for new leadership. The lawsuit against Catalyst Solutions was dropped on September 4th, 2024. Liam Kellner was quietly terminated from Catalyst the same day. We didn't make it dramatic. We just security walked him out and sent his final paycheck. I never saw him again. I should have felt victorious. I'd beaten Derek at his own game. I'd survived his attempt to destroy me. I'd turned his weapon against him. Instead, I felt hollow. So tell me, did I win? Or did I just become Derek with better PR? Drop a comment and let me know. Because I'm still trying to figure that out myself. September 2024. 6 months after I started Catalyst Solutions. 3 months after Derek tried to destroy me. 1 month after I destroyed him. I was sitting in my new office. We'd upgraded to a proper space in Midtown, a full floor of a renovated building, when Fiona knocked on my door. "We need to talk," she said. I gestured for her to sit. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. That's kind of the problem." Fiona pulled up a chair. "Natasha, we're killing it. We have 15 clients now. We're on track to do 12 million in revenue this year. We're hiring faster than we can onboard people. By every metric, we're succeeding beyond what we planned. And that's a problem because I just got a call from one of Derek's former clients. A company called Davenport Industries. They want to switch to Catalyst, and they told me why. They said they heard Derek's company was imploding due to mismanagement, and they wanted to work with a more ethical alternative. I didn't see the issue. So, Natasha, they think we're the good guys. They think Derek was the villain, and we're the scrappy underdogs who stood up to him. But you and I both know that's not what happened." "What do you mean?" Fiona looked at me carefully. "We leaked Derek's security vulnerabilities to destroy his reputation. We used insider knowledge of his systems to compete with him. We counter-leaked his emails to humiliate him publicly. And yes, he deserved a lot of it because he was stealing from us through Liam. But Natasha, we're not the heroes in this story. We're just the villains who won. I wanted to argue, to defend our actions, to explain that everything we did was justified because Derek started it. But I couldn't, because Fiona was right. Does it matter? I asked finally. We won. The company's thriving. Derek's gone. Why does it matter who the hero is? It matters because I'm starting to see you make the same decisions Derek used to make. Last week, you told Tobias to implement a feature for the Davenport contract, even though he said it would require cutting corners on security testing. You said we'd fix it later. That's exactly what Derek used to say. That's completely different. Is it? You're prioritizing growth over quality. You're making promises to clients we're not sure we can keep. You're building the empire, Natasha. But what happens when someone younger and hungrier decides to take it from you the same way you took it from Derek? I wanted to tell her she was wrong. That I was nothing like Derek. That I'd built Catalyst on principles he'd never had. But I couldn't. Because sitting there in my corner office with my view of Midtown Atlanta, I realized something terrifying. I'd become exactly what I'd destroyed. The company I'd built on revenge and ruthlessness was now worth something. And I was willing to protect it the same way Derek had protected VentureSync. By any means necessary. So what do you want me to do? I asked. Walk away? Hand the company over to someone else? Apologize to Derek? No, Fiona said. I want you to decide what kind of CEO you're going to be. Derek made his choice. He chose power over principles. He chose winning over doing the right thing. And in the end, it destroyed him. You have the same choice now. You can build Catalyst into something genuinely great, or you can turn it into VentureSync 2.0 and wait for the next angry, ambitious person to come take it from you. She stood up and walked to the door. Then she turned back. For what it's worth, I think you're better than Derek. I think you're capable of building something that doesn't require destroying people to survive. But you have to choose that. Every day. Starting now. She left. I sat alone in my office as the sun set over Atlanta, turning the sky the color of fire. I thought about my mother in her purple cleaning uniform. About Derek's smug face when he called me too ambitious. About every step I'd taken to get here. The calculated risks, the strategic betrayals, the careful destruction of a man who'd underestimated me. I'd won. Completely. Totally. So why did I feel like I'd lost something I couldn't name? It's been 3 months since that conversation with Fiona. Catalyst Solutions is now valued at $30 million. We have 48 employees. We're opening a second office in Charlotte next quarter. Derek Hastings took a consulting position at a small firm in Nashville. I heard he's doing fine. Making decent money. Just smaller than he used to be. Quieter. I don't feel guilty about what I did to him. He started the war. I just finished it. But Fiona was right about one thing. I'm at a crossroads. I can either learn from Derek's mistakes or repeat them. I can build a company based on genuine excellence. Or I can build one based on crushing anyone who threatens me. The truth is, I don't know which version of myself I'll choose. Some days, I walk into the office, and I treat my team with respect. I make ethical decisions. I turn down profitable clients if their values don't align with ours. I'm the CEO I wish Derek had been. On other days, I walk in and see threats everywhere. Competitors who need to be destroyed. Employees who might betray me. Clients who might leave. And I feel that familiar coldness, that calculating instinct that tells me to strike first, strike hard, and never apologize. Maybe that's the real lesson. Maybe there are no heroes or villains in business. Just people trying to survive in a system that rewards ruthlessness and calls it ambition. My mother died believing the world didn't give people like us a chance. I proved her wrong by taking a chance that wasn't offered to me. But in doing so, I became the person she warned me about. The one with power. The one who makes the rules. The one who decides who succeeds and who fails. So here's my final question for you. If you had to choose between being the person who gets stepped on or the person who does the stepping, which would you choose? Be honest. Because I think most of you already know the answer. You'd choose power. Just like I did. Just like Derek did. You'd just hope you'd use it better than we did. So that's my story. The whole ugly, complicated truth about what it takes to win when the system is rigged against you. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, was I justified? Did I go too far? Am I the hero of my own story, or just another villain with better PR? And here's the harder question. What would you have done differently? At what point would you have stopped? Or would you have gone even further than I did? Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories like this. Stories about people who refused to stay in their place, who fought back against the people who underestimated them, and who had to live with the consequences. Like this video if you think ambition isn't a sin, it's survival. Share it if you know someone who's been called too ambitious and wants to know they're not alone. And remember, the world tells you to be humble, to wait your turn, to respect the hierarchy. But the people at the top? They got there by ignoring all of that. So the next time someone tells you you're too ambitious, smile and say thank you. And then show them what ambition really looks like. I'm Natasha Drummond. Thanks for listening to what happened when I stopped asking for permission and started taking what I earned. See you at the top. Or on your way down. Subscribe for more confessions. What would you have done? Drop a comment below.